Welcome to the Mega Print on Demand Summit. I am Melissa Reynolds, one of your hosts. This is day 3 of the summit, and we will be discussing how to scale and grow your business. So are you ready to learn some more about print on demand? I sure am, so let's get started.
So this is partnering with nonprofits through Amazon Merch. I'm the data side of our business, and Nathaniel's kind of the art side, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi guys, my name's Nate Hibbert. I'm Steven's little brother. I am the complete opposite of him, basically. I've wanted nothing to do with selling online. My path was to take graphic design. So that's what I've been doing for the past, I think I just had 11 years. And I've been doing t-shirt art specifically for about 4 years. And so Merch was kind of the perfect opportunity for me and Steven to really work together. I've always helped him kind of with online searching, or online selling. So I knew the Amazon platform a little bit, but that was just more him forcing me to work for him because I was his little brother. But Merch was like the first time I really sank my teeth into anything Amazon related. And through that, we've come up with this partnership that we're calling a company called Wingman Merch. And that's basically me and Steven just wanting to come alongside of people wherever they're at and help them with their merch account. And we've had some success in our own accounts, and we've now blowing up helping other people. So it feels really good and happy to be here.
So these slides and this whole presentation is just a ton of our mistakes. And then we learned from all our mistakes to be able to present this, to give it to other people so that you can speed up your learning process.
Have you corrected them?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Now we actually have a process. So these are all the best way to go about it since we found from making all those mistakes. Nathaniel always likes to say that we had successes, but I like to say that we have a ton of failures. That's the only reason we have any successes. We're able to just continue to push through. I think especially working with my brother to be able to keep each other motivated and going. That's kind of why we started the group, to kind of keep everybody moving forward. So this is just use our mistakes to save you time. That's pretty much what this is. The nonprofits that you kind of want to go after, we've kind of broken it into 3 different parts. You want them to have an audience. Normally this helps with just building an audience takes a lot of time, and you don't really necessarily want to be doing that. You want to be able to help them sell shirts. So you want them to have an audience. You also want them to be selling a product. Most nonprofits normally, depending on how they set up their business, have different rules that they have to follow. And if they're selling a product, you know that you don't have to discover and find out what all those rules are. They kind of know that and have a good understanding of how to actually sell products. So that's where we come in.
You can also, I'm going to cut you off there, but you can also do some pretty cool partnerships if they are selling a product. So you can use Merch as a tool, like we're hoping to teach you guys tonight. And you can say, we'll sell you these shirts, and then if people wear these shirts to your event, you can incentivize them to buy the shirts by giving 10% off, or here's a free product, or you get a free batch of stickers, whatever. Just some incentive for people to buy the shirts and then wear them to the events that the nonprofits put on. So if they are selling products, they can do discount codes for the other products that they have, which helps them sell those products as well, which is, we've found, been fantastic. And then the last thing that we like to see in the nonprofits that we're working with is, or that you guys want to be looking for, is an organization that you believe in. This is just because, well, especially starting off, a lot of these deals got hung up on things and were frustrating, and communication broke down. So we found it was much better if we believed in the organization that we were trying to help, just because it kept us motivated and kept us wanting to contact them. And it didn't just draw on forever. And I was like, okay, well, I don't even really want to help these guys, so why am I pushing this so hard? So that's definitely something that we've, that's important.
This is no fun. This is fun. It changes the whole. I love what you said, Nate, that using Merch as a tool. I think that's a great way to word this, and exactly what you guys are teaching here. So good work.
Yeah, there's so many things that you can do inside of Merch, but the way that we're viewing Merch is just as another tool that we can use inside of our business. So that's been another helpful mindset that we have.
Step 1, you want to be able to locate the nonprofit. And then step 2, you want to be able to communicate. We've spent a lot of time just talking to a lot of different businesses, and we found out very quickly that trying to talk to nonprofits the same way that you talk to businesses is not going to work out. So you have to learn the proper verbiage to be able to communicate with them. And then step 3 is the deal. We're just going to break down the different parts, kind of like pieces on a chessboard. Each one of those you're kind of able to manipulate to get the overall outcome that you're looking for. And then step 4 is the listing. So step 1 is locate. We're going to try to break down just a few different places that you can go and look for nonprofits, and then we're going to kind of break down the positive and negatives of each one of those. So the first thing is local meetings. This is kind of how we cut our teeth on working with nonprofits. We were going to a lot of local meetings just wanting to work with local businesses, and we found that, nonprofits is really cool because they're doing a lot of cool things that we want to be a part of. How do we help and work with them? So meetup.com is kind of where we started, but then Chamber of Commerce is really like an amazing place because even the people that are in there normally know, like, oh, you're looking for nonprofits, this is the meeting that you want to go to. They meet every this time or this time. They have a ton of knowledge for local meetings, the Chamber of Commerce. And then I'll let Nathaniel talk about the positive and negatives of local meetings.
Yeah. So like Steven said, we're going to talk about the positives and negatives of each of these. The positives of going to local meetings is you get that face-to-face interaction. That's where me and Steven have just found ourselves to be best when trying to explain not only what merch is, but how it can work for them. There's a lot of moving parts, so just getting a sit down around a table where we can explain all this has been very helpful for us because it fits our personalities. And then really big networking opportunities. Some of the meetings that we were going to were around for like 20 years and they were run by the same people. So you can definitely guess that they're plugged into their local meetings, that they've been putting on those meetings. So there's lots of networking opportunities. Even if the person that you want to work with doesn't go to that meeting, they probably know them or know where you can find them or contact them. So getting to know those people in that local meeting is awesome.
Yeah, meeting those older people are like Rolodexes for your local area. They know everybody.
And then a downside of going to the local meetings is it's just time consuming. We went to a few of those meetings for like months. If we knew what we were doing, it would have been much quicker. But just because we went in there just like, this might work, it just took us a long time. But also they like to see, your face be around for quite a while before they're going to tell you like, oh, you could work with this person. Like, I'm sure they see a lot of people just come to 1 or 2 meetings and then they never see them again. So they're a little bit cautious about opening up and, showing you that Rolodex that they do have.
And then next is online searches. This is the best way to kind of like reach a large audience, but Facebook is an amazing place. Yelp, and then something that we found out from one of the local meetings was charitynavigator.org. When we first started doing these slides, we didn't know much about it, but Nathaniel's actually dug into that quite a bit. Yeah,
Charity Navigator is pretty sweet. It allows you to plug in your area code and see what nonprofits are around you. In Florida, when I did this, there's probably like 150. Now I'm currently in South Carolina and I ran it again and there was like 5. So a big population difference here. But that kind of circles back to the local meetings. Like, I'm only looking locally because I want that face-to-face interaction. But for the online search, like, you don't have to do it locally. You can do this with anyone who has an audience in America. So that's pretty sweet. So I'll jump into the positives of doing an online search, and it's very fast, especially with Charity Navigator. It just gives you like some basic information about each nonprofit. So you can like quickly find who you're trying to talk to, or at least an email that you can start that conversation. And then again, that wide reach. You don't have to just be in your local area. Anyone who has an audience in America will work perfectly fine. So definitely benefits there. And then some negatives is it's hard to build a relationship. Again, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it's so true. Like, we're so good at face-to-face, and through email, like, just explaining merch, explaining who you are, explaining why you're trying to do like this deal that seems too good to be true. All those things add up for just a lot of back and forth emails. So it's hard for us to build relationships through that. Even people that we've worked with, we've gone back and like see how we can improve our reach out strategy. And they're like, yeah, it seems really scammy that you guys want to like do all the work for us. We don't have to do anything and you're just going to send us a check at the end of the month. Like, none of that made sense. So as we'll explain a little bit later in the communicate part, we tell you kind of the verbiage that you want to be using so you don't come off as scammy.
Snake oil salesman.
Next one.
Churches. Again, before we were even doing merch, we were helping churches with shirts. We kind of always knew either local printers or just places to get shirts, and we were always helping missions trips or just any kind of event that the church had going on. So if you go to church, this is definitely a great place to get a lot of those kind of deals done.
Or start going to church if you're not, so you can get deals.
That's why I kind of paused. I was like, how hard should I be pushing this? I apologize.
Just go to a different one every week.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Was right.
Then you'll come across like a sleazy sales guy.
But if you are not attending a church, you can still work with churches. Google Maps is a good place to find churches. Also Facebook.com and then Instagram. Nathaniel always was saying that Instagram, if they have any presence on Instagram, they're pretty good at reaching their audience. So this is another telltale sign that that's maybe somebody you want to work with.
Yeah, if a church is tech savvy enough to have an Instagram account, it usually means it's a little bit easier to explain what you're trying to do. So that's just something that I've found to look for. But some positives of working with churches, they have a dedicated audience. They usually want to help out. The church congregation usually wants to help out what's going on in the community or inside of the church. So they'll be willing to support them by buying t-shirts. And there's lots of opportunities. Like I just said, like churches are usually trying to do events for the community. Easter's coming up, so I'm sure that you could do some Easter shirts just for the church and push them that way. And mission trips, they're always going on mission trips. Like there's just a ton of opportunities when you start looking at what's going on in a church that someone might want to, spend the money to not only support or send someone on a mission trip, but also have something that shows that they did that, which is the t-shirt. So a negative of doing that is most churches have a strong local printer connection because they're already making a ton of t-shirts. A lot of churches make a lot of t-shirts already, so they have those connections where they're getting a crazy deal because the printing company is getting a tax break. But what we've learned is we're not really competing with the local printer connection. We only really view this as a negative because it can stop some of the communication. It can make communicating with them a bit more difficult.
More like a hurdle to get over.
Yeah, exactly. It can definitely be done. I've done it with 2 churches. One of them had a screen printer inside of the church. There was someone running that business out of the church, and we still were able to do a merch deal with them. And then the other one completely went blank.
Was it our church in Michigan?
Yeah. I've done a lot of deals, but we'll just stick with that one for whatever. Second one just completely escaped me. But yeah, it can be done. We view that as a negative just because of a little bit of the communication breakdown that can happen there.
Ask around. Normally, nonprofits that don't have a great presence online or don't do a lot of meetings are still very heavily followed. I don't know if I explained that right, but if you talk to people that you work with or friends and family, anywhere that they volunteer that maybe you didn't know about that nonprofit, but the local community does, but that they don't really have a presence online or they don't go to meetings is, I guess, what I was trying to say. They're very local and they're very niched, but those people are very active with that nonprofit. If you know anybody that is volunteering, definitely talk to them. Or any place, we have coffee shops up here, but any place that you go to a lot and you kind of know the same people, you know the people behind the counter, those are great people to ask, like, hey, do you know of any nonprofits around here? Do you volunteer? Again, the negatives and positives are kind of the same as the meeting, but I'll let Nathaniel explain those.
Yeah, so positives, you can find strong connections. And by that, I just kind of mean what Steven was explaining. If you find someone who's volunteering at a nonprofit that has like no online presence or doesn't go to any local meetings, they can usually help you get a foot in the door there, where otherwise it'd just be impossible because they're not like, promoting themselves in any way. And then the untapped nonprofits. So sorry, I kind of bundled those 2 together, but it's the same idea that like you can find nonprofits that aren't going to be online or going to any of those local meetings that way. And then the strong connection is just somebody who is volunteering at one of those. They'll give you that foot in the door, so it's a little bit easier to communicate with you with the nonprofit. And then a negative is just like going to local meetings, it can be time consuming. It can also be kind of awkward depending on your personality type. I don't like going around and asking everybody I know if they volunteer at a nonprofit or know of one. So it just depends on kind of who you are, but that's a negative for me. It's time consuming and a little bit awkward for me. So to wrap up part 1, which was locate, we just wanted to let you guys know that good places to look for nonprofits are local meetings, searching online, churches, and asking around.
The next part is communicating. We've had a ton of difficulty and time spent here because we were approaching them like they were businesses. So we were saying things like, hey, we can help you sell more shirts, just all the wrong things that nonprofits don't want to hear. So from that, and then finding like, oh, we're not even talking to the right people. So this is where hopefully we're saving you a ton of time, is just in explaining how to communicate and who you want to communicate with. So the person you want to ask for is the director of development, and I'll let Nathaniel explain why that is.
Yeah, so like this slide says, for most nonprofits, this is the person in charge of fundraising and will be the person who can help you close the deal. Even if the nonprofit isn't big enough to have a director of development, they'll definitely know like kind of what you're asking for. It's just that person who's going to understand fundraising, and saying director of development like almost is a direct guide to that person. So that's definitely saved us a lot of time now that we know that. And so when you actually get a meeting with the director of development, here are some phrases off to the right-hand side that we're going to break down to help you just communicate farther and not kind of get put in a box and then pushed off to the side where they think they already know what's going on. So I'll break down these. So helping versus selling, approaching each nonprofit offering to use my business to help and not to sell lots of t-shirts. Like Steven said, we don't want to come off as or we don't want to talk to them as if they're a business. Usually if you're looking to sell lots of t-shirts, that just like instantly puts you in a box. They're like, oh, this is a guy with a screen printer in his garage. They're going to try and print the shirts and then have us hold them. And then when we run out of larges, it's going to be a headache. Or if we have to do shipping, like it's going to be a nightmare. So you don't even want to like say t-shirts or apparel or any of that stuff. Like we've tried it, it just doesn't work. No one's impressed by that at all. But if you just say to them, I want to use my business to help you guys, and I'd like to sit down and talk to you about that if we can get a one-on-one meeting, it is a little bit of an eyebrow raiser, and they're much more likely to like set up a meeting with you because they're interested in what you have to say. So those two things, what to do versus what not to do, basically.
You know what? I want to cut you off just a minute. Guys, this stuff here really struck me because, and you guys do a really good job of simplifying it. And I don't want there to be any confusion that this isn't worth considering because you have simplified it so much. Okay. So I think this is just key. And if you're not working with nonprofits, it's easy to look over these things. So I would be taking notes at this point for sure about just how to communicate well. And you guys, like you've said, you are speaking from your own experiences and what you've learned, what nonprofits will listen to. And it's kind of like, you know, when Ryan and I talk about the magic question, knowing what companies hear, that's really, you want to make sure you're communicating what you're intending to communicate. And so this is gold right here. It looks very simple, but I'm telling you, do not just let this pass by, you guys. This is really important if you plan on doing business with a nonprofit.
Yeah, I just want to double down on what Jenny just said, especially going to ASD and talking to a lot of those people before I even met Ryan the first time and saying, oh, I want to sell your products online, and getting shut down, and then walking around with Ryan and just hearing him say that, oh, can I take your product and take it out of the box and put it in mine? It was like, oh, because I said this thing incorrectly, like all the doors were shut in my face. But just saying these things slightly different opens up all the doors. And that's essentially what we were doing in the beginning. We were getting a whole bunch of doors slammed in our face, and we go, okay, that's not working. How do we get this to work? What are we doing wrong? And to be able to figure that stuff out. So it is very like face, hands on face, palm.
Well, this is it's a great example of learning from your guys' mistakes here. Yeah. You know, you could go, any of us could go to nonprofits, and maybe one will go and understand what we're trying to do for them, but you guys have learned and seen consistency in how to communicate better. So this is awesome advice and things that you guys don't have to learn on your own through trial and error. They've already done it for you. So
literally just weeks of us going and failing
every day, setting up a meeting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, failing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and then talking about it on Saturday.
Yeah. And it's kind of cool because the nonprofits that we've worked with now, like really what was the big eye opener for us was like asking them like, okay, we explained this thing to you, and I'm sure like you've simplified it in your head now. Like, what do you see us as what we're doing? And they're like, oh, you're just using your business to help us. I'm like, oh, that's so much better than saying like, I'm trying to help you guys sell shirts.
Yes.
Even saying like we were an apparel company for a few weeks.
That was horrible.
Yeah, that was.
I thought it was so good when I thought of it. I was like, we're not a t-shirt company. We're an apparel company. This is going to kill.
Yeah, so I'm glad Jenny stopped us to kind of
Yes.
harp on this, because this is literally like weeks and months of just us failing, super simplified into just like 1 or 2 sentences. So I appreciate you harping on it.
My pleasure.
All right. We'll jump into the next one, profits versus donations. Another thing that we've just learned from facepalming. Some
Facepalming.
nonprofits can't sell your shirts because it's against their mission statement, but they can accept a donation from you. So we've approached nonprofits and they were just like, yeah, we can't sell anything unless it meets these requirements. It has to use these materials or be made by these people. But once you say donations, it's like that secret like magic back door that you can go in like, oh yeah, we can accept donations from anybody. Yeah, that's just another thing that you want to know going into this. You don't want to, again, you don't want to say, I want to help you guys sell or talk about profits. Like if you just say like, we want to use our business to help and we'll donate the proceeds, like that just opens up so many more doors and so many more meetings. So the next one's a little bit more technical, which is why I tried to super simplify this one, but I'll break it down. A fundraiser is an event and a sponsor is adding to that event. So this really becomes a problem if the nonprofit you're approaching is already doing a fundraiser. They can take months. I remember one nonprofit we went to, we said, hey, we can help you guys do a fundraiser. They said, come back and talk to us in 6 months. We're like, whoa, well, we're super impatient. We're not going to remember to talk to you guys in 6 months. So what's another way that we can make this deal happen? And basically, we just said, another magic word. We wanted to sponsor the fundraiser that they already had going on. And it was like, okay, come in and tomorrow we'll talk to you guys. So just knowing these words, like I said, this one's a little bit more technical, but we found like nonprofits are always in the middle of fundraisers anyways. So just knowing like, oh, you see that they're stressed out from being in the middle of fundraiser. Let's see if we can just talk about being a sponsor to what they've already got going on. And like I said, just having merch is a great thing to add to another fundraiser that they're doing. So it works out very well. And then the last thing, Jenny probably thinks this looks familiar because we stole it directly from her a few months ago. But depending on how you set up your deal, you can charge a setup fee. Steven's going to touch on that more in part 3. But if you see the fee is going to cause a problem, you can say the magic term, I'll pay for it. And it shows how serious you are about making the deal work. So like I said, Steven's going to explain kind of what the setup fee means and what that is. But we've come across some nonprofits who either just don't have the capital or don't have the time to like, find that money because of the way nonprofits work. But if you just say, I'll pay for it, they're a little bit more willing then to work with you because it seems like you have some skin in the game, like you're doing something for them, so they want to help you back. So yeah, we stole that from Jenny and it's been working fantastic. And probably the thing that raises the most eyebrows is explaining your business partnered with Amazon. Again, this is something that someone told us kind of in retrospect after we talked to them. They're like, oh, we think it's really cool that you're partnered with Amazon. We're like, oh, why aren't we telling everybody that? Just saying that you're partnered with Amazon, which by having a merch account, you are partnered with Amazon.
Right.
It raises a lot of eyebrows. It will definitely get you a lot of meetings because of how powerful that name Amazon is. So there's a lot of benefits that going along with being partnered with Amazon, and I'm going to run those down now. So the first one being you have that nationwide reach. If you've ever tried to sell t-shirts the traditional way, or if a nonprofit has ever tried to sell t-shirts the traditional way, shipping can bite you in the butt real hard. But with Amazon, you don't have to worry about that because they're going to be shipping those shirts for you, and that price is kind of built into their system. And the 1 week delivery times, like that's almost unheard of in the traditional printing world. Not only can you order one, but you can get it in a week compared to a traditional screen printer, which is going to take like 2 weeks to print it and then a week to ship it. So that's pretty much unheard of. The no returns to deal with. Another thing is just like it's just so much less of a headache to do it this way. You don't have to deal with angry customers or anything, which is the next point is there's no customer service problems. You're not going to get any angry emails. You're not going to get cussed out over the phone. It's just Amazon handles all that pretty much after the sale is made. There's no stress on us or the nonprofit.
So be patient. Working with nonprofits normally takes time, especially when you're just trying to learn. They're normally understaffed. Many of the nonprofits we work with rely on volunteer workers. They're very busy. It can take them a while to get back with you, but don't get discouraged. Just keep at it. You want to definitely stay in communication. Don't be afraid to remind them a few times. This kind of always feels like we're harassing them, but it is just you're constantly on the back burner. They always have a ton of things going on, especially if this is the first time you worked with them. You're not high on the totem pole. So you're going to want to kind of be that squeaky wheel to start. To just keep in communication with them so that the deal actually gets done.
Two biggest things that I can look at this section and say is learning the verbiage nonprofits understand will save you a lot of time and frustration. Again, that's just been all of my mistakes very nicely summed up for you guys in months of trying this thing. So there is a lot of value there. And then remembering your merch account is a partnership with Amazon. Another thing that just like it raises eyebrows so easily. Like you could just go to a meeting and say that, and then you'll get like 5 people that are going to want to have sit downs with you. So there's definitely a lot of power in just that partnership with Amazon. Part 3 is the deal, and this is like Steven's expertise. This is where he kind of thrives and can explain things much better than I can. So I'm going to let him take over and talk about all the parts of the deal.
Yeah, and I don't want to like overwhelm anybody. Again, these are just kind of like the pieces on the chessboard. You kind of want to go into a deal with a mindset of like, okay, what do I want out of this deal? I want to be able to get X amount of money so that I can cover the cost of any labor that I have to do or that I have to pay somebody else to do. And I kind of want to come out of the deal making this much from each shirt sale. So definitely getting the correct mindset before you go into a deal. And then once you kind of know what you want out of it, these are all the pieces that you can kind of manipulate to get what you want out of the deal. So this is how we have it broken down. I'm sure you don't have to call them these names, but this is just a way that we can explain it to you. So we call the first initial fee that we're going to be charging is a setup fee. Then we kind of break it down to art, keywords, listing, then the royalties, and then promotion is like the last piece of the little puzzle that we have.
Yeah, I think Stephen made it pretty clear, but I just want to harp on the fact that like these are all just parts of the deal. You don't have to use, excuse me, you don't have to use all of these. You can use them in different ways that we're using them, but we just tried to lay everything out that we have used in the past, and then you guys can pick, oh, this will work for me, or I don't want to even talk about that with them. So just knowing that going into this is important.
Yeah, I guess another thing I'll touch on too is when you're talking to the nonprofits, sometimes you do sit down at the table and it's very like deal structured, like I'm going to hit these points and then we talk about the deal. And other times it's just in conversation, like they're going to be asking you questions, you ask them questions. You just have to know, that's why I say get in the mindset of what you want so that when you have that conversation, you kind of know, okay, these are kind of mentally the check boxes that I want to hit to be able to get this deal done the way that I want to get it done. So this is kind of the strategies of the deal. So the setup, we kind of see that in 2 different lights. If we do charge for it, it helps the nonprofit, or it gets the nonprofits to feel like they have skin in the game, again, so the deals don't stall out. It covers the cost of art or keywords or research or anything that we normally have a team of VAs doing everything now, so we want to cover that cost before we have to pay for it because we've been caught behind the 8 ball and burned a few times, so we want to get that cost up front. Also kind of creating the listing. Then, like Nathaniel said, that we stole this from Jenny, that I will pay for it. Kind of how we were setting up the deals, or at least trying to set up the deals before, we're going at them and saying, hey, we'll pay for everything, we'll do all the work, and then we'll split the money on the back end. That sounds very scammy, like Daniel was saying. So having, even if there is no real true charge to them, if you just say there's a charge and just say, I'll pay for it, I'm so willing to work with you that I'm willing to waive this initial, however much you want to charge them in the beginning, just so we can get this deal done because I'm really excited about what you guys have going on, or whatever their mission statement is that you kind of line up with.
Well, you are, and you are putting time into this. I mean, that's part of what you're paying for. I'm paying for it with my time, I'm paying for it with my money, or I'm paying it for with my resources. So just because you're saying that I'll pay for it, I mean, the assumption might be that there's money involved in that exchange or in that, whatever, but it doesn't have to be that. So it's not really,
we see it that way, but since nonprofits aren't businesses, I don't think they value their time.
Yes.
So this is kind of the way that like we justify it. So if they ask you like,
Exactly.
oh, who's that charge going to, then you can use all of these things and break it down. Like you can go real technical and go over their head if you like want to do that, or you can just simply break the things down the way that we've done it. And that's kind of what we're talking about through this whole thing is like these aren't businesses, so you have to talk to them slightly different. So the way that we think about things and the way that we're getting them done, like when it's actually time to work, we say, okay, we're trying to sell lots of t-shirts. That's what we say, like in-house. For them, you can't say that, otherwise the deal is never going to go through. So just that mindset, like, yes, it is true. They should be paying for our time because it's our experience that's gone into this. It's our time, it's our partnership, but they don't necessarily see it that way. So this is what we've done to kind of cover ourselves.
Yeah, and I would say Nathaniel's much better at communicating with them because it's almost to me like a front, because everything on the back end is the same no matter what we say. We're doing the same thing to get the job done, but you have to verbally kind of weave your way into what they want to hear to be able to get the deal done. So I'm normally saying that, like, I want to sell more shirts, and then Nathaniel's like, no, we want to help you. And so working with my brother, like, there's a ton of positives of finding somebody that you can work with. But also if you don't charge, I think we kind of already touched on this, it shows that you're willing to work with them. So even just saying I'm very willing to work with you, I'll be willing to waive the initial fee. We've found that those initial deals, like the first deal that we do with a nonprofit, those are what gets the deal done by saying we'll pay for it. And then if you do more deals with them, they understand that fee is already there, so that they're very willing to pay for it because you already have a relationship built up with them. The next is the art. Again, we kind of have this in two separate things. We have teams of people, VAs working on our art. So normally when we have tier ups and stuff, our art team is very busy. So we kind of found that, they could maybe provide the art or we could provide the art. So that's kind of how we break it down this way. Again, if you're not artistically gifted like me, you almost have to have them give you the art. If they're supplying the art, it can lower that setup fee. So just like charging in the beginning, if you are charging, you can lower that if they provide the art. It's also less work for you. If you're providing the art, it kind of justifies that setup fee. Even if you use the tactic of saying, I'll pay for it, and you have to pay a team of VAs, you can bring that fee back up when you talk about the art and say, if you want me to provide the art, there is going to be a charge, and it is going to be this charge. So you can still get the amount of money that you need for the deal to get done on your side.
Yeah, like Steven said, we've been burned a couple of times by like waiving that setup fee and then realizing we also have to do the art. It depends how you're structuring the deal, but in our case, like now, it's not worth doing something for free. So this is just an important part to know. If you have to pay for the art, you want to make sure that it's getting covered by the nonprofit.
And then keywords and listings, we kind of lump these two together. We're not normally ever charging for that because we can normally get what we need from the setup fee or just the art fee, but they are both definitely negotiation pieces. We do take the time to explain the benefits of good keywords to the client, and we do go over the listing process, which then will go into the last part. Like you kind of have to explain all that stuff to them. In being partnered with Amazon, here are the kind of the hurdles that we're gonna have to jump through. So we can do this and we can't do this. But as you're talking about the deal, you definitely want to touch on these two parts. So all parties involved know what's gonna happen. And then the royalties, this is kind of when the shirt sells, the money that you get from the shirts, what's gonna happen to that. We are just doing a lot of 50-50 deals just because it's easy to explain that way. We're doing this amount of work, you're doing that amount of work. We're going to split it 50-50. Depending on if we're doing the art and we might have to promote and do different things, you can adjust the split to make it work for you. So if you're doing more, if you feel like you're doing most of the work, you can ask for a different split. If you feel like they're doing most of the work, they're providing the art, they're doing the promotion, you're just kind of making the listing, you can give them more of that money. Again, the same thing with waiving that setup fee. You can also give them all of the royalties. And we've had even people ask us, if you waive the setup fee and you're giving them all the money, what's the point of doing that deal? Because of the way how merch is set up, tiering up is kind of that grind in the beginning. So if you do find a deal like this and you're having a hard time getting the deal done, waiving that initial setup fee and giving them all the money from the shirts is a great way to get that deal done and be able to tier up very quickly. So if you're in the lower tiers like 10, 25, and then 100, right, brother?
Yeah.
I don't even remember how that goes. It's a great way to get out of those tiers to get into the much higher tiers.
Yeah, and to harp on the communication part of it again, the way that we just explained it, where you're waiving the setup fee and you're not going to take any royalties, like if you go in initially saying that, they're not going to believe you. Like it just sounds too good to be true, because they don't understand what you're getting from it. So you definitely want to you can definitely explain to them that there usually is a setup fee, but because I want to work with you guys, because I want to help you, I'll waive that. And then the same thing for giving them all of the royalties. You kind of want to explain like, okay, well, this is going to help my business because I'm trying to sell these shirts. You don't have to get that detailed into it, but you just want to make sure that that's not the first thing you're approaching.
Yes.
Just because of how scammers.
And then the last piece is the promotional piece. This is part of the reason why we like to go after nonprofits that have a audience already, so that we don't have to do any marketing. We don't necessarily mind doing the marketing, but we know a lot of people that's like their kryptonite is the marketing of any of this stuff. So look for nonprofits that have audiences so that you can tap into their customer base, and then they'll do the marketing. If they don't have an audience or they don't really know how to reach out to their audience, you can help them build an audience. It takes a lot of time. There's no quick way to build an audience. And if you do tap into, or if you do help them with their building an audience, you can tap into possibly their marketing budget. So even if you don't feel that comfortable with building their audience, but you're willing to do it for them, you can say, hey, I've never really done this before, but I'd love to be able to help you. I might need to run ads. I might need to do other things. So you can tap into that budget. So you can almost get paid to learn how to build an audience. And then we just kind of broke down the benefits of the deal for the nonprofits and then also for you. So for the nonprofits, and this is the first part of this is a lot of what Nathaniel already said. So over traditional printers, you get a lot of benefits, but working with Amazon, they don't have to deal with the orders, they don't have to deal with returns, they don't have to deal with any customer service. And then a lot of times where we have a benefit, even if they have a local printer or the print shop is in the church, they don't have to pay for the shirts up front. So even that printer that's in the church, they have to go buy those shirts before they can even get them printed. So we can show them that, hey, we don't have to take any money from you to be able to buy the shirts. They're already listed. So that's a huge benefit. Also, they don't have to store the shirts. Most of the nonprofits don't have a lot of storage space. So they've run other promotional things where they've had shirts and they normally have those shirts in the back, still taking up space. So explaining that to them is another huge selling point. And then they don't have to predict the sizes. So that's another thing that normally stacks those shirts on the back because they've got too many child's or women's or men's or whatever size. Those are the ones in the back, like those triple XLs that Rodney said that we need 75 are all in the back because we didn't sell any of them. So then at no additional charge to them, we can give them multiple designs, 15 different colors on 5 different products. Most of the time when we're working with nonprofits, we don't want to overwhelm them. So we suggest that you do no more than 3 different designs. But those are, again, all of these are huge benefits to them, especially if they've ever done anything with shirts before. They'll definitely, all of this stuff will definitely resonate with them. And then the biggest thing for us is...
Before Stephen talks about the biggest thing, or that last I remembered the other example that I wanted to bring up.
From the churches?
It was a nonprofit. Well, it was a nonprofit that the guy who ran the nonprofit, his father owned a pretty big traditional screen printer. And we were able even to work with him because he kind of knew all the pains. Like he grew up working for his dad in the screen printer. So when we were explaining like basically everything on this slide, he was just completely blown away. He was like, man, I don't have to touch a t-shirt. I'm not going to have to get cussed out over the phone. Like, sign me up, like, whatever you guys want to do. Like I'm down, I'll supply the art. Like he was one of the best people that we worked with because he understood like the value that we were bringing him.
And that was one we didn't think we were going to close because as soon as you said, oh, my dad owns like one of the biggest print shops in Florida, we were like, oh, okay. This is a wash. But then after explaining to him, he was like completely sold. So we just want to harp on these points so that you know going into talking to the nonprofits what your ammunition is so you can hit them with all these good points. And then kind of capturing the lightning in the bottle for us was, oh, we can find a way to tap into Amazon organic traffic. That's a huge benefit to the nonprofits and also to you. So then the benefits of the deals for you, you get to tap into their audience. So no marketing. This is a huge like benefit for everybody that we help. They're like, we don't have to do any marketing. We don't have to like find the best keywords and do all of this research and make sure all these things, like it's such an easier way to sell shirts with partnering up with other people. It's also a great way to grow your account. tiering up, again, is just a grind in the beginning when you don't really know much and you only have 10 slots. It takes a lot of effort to kind of figure out what's going on. I only have 10 slots. There's not a lot of testing I can do. We get those questions all the time. How long should I leave these shirts up before I pull them down? Should I be leaving them up for a week, or 2 days, a month? Like, it's difficult when you only have 10 to feel like you can kind of cast a broad net. And then the biggest part for me is the relationships. Why I want them to be selling a product is that it allows me to do bigger things than just merch. So if they do have products and they're not selling them online, that's a golden opportunity for me to help them sell online. Even if they are selling online and they're selling on their platform, I'm actually helping Ryan out with one from taking their products from online on their site to put them on Amazon and then show them the benefits of that. And even if they are selling on Amazon and they're fulfilling them, you can explain to them the FBA side. So there's a lot of different other opportunities if you're working with a nonprofit. Normally, greasing the wheel and getting in there with merch is the quickest, easiest, and fastest way that we found to lead into other deals. And then I'll let Nathaniel talk a little bit more on the merch side because
I'm just like fully merch focused and I don't want to deal with private label or anything else, even as easy as Ryan and Jenny make it. This has led into a lot of just more merch deals that I can do. So nonprofits are pretty plugged in with their community because they rely on volunteers and they rely on donations. So if they're able to tell a business that donates to them, like, hey, we just did this crazy t-shirt promotion, we didn't have to do anything and we got paid and the kid was awesome, like, you should talk to them. Like, that just leads into more and more business for me. And even nonprofits talking to other nonprofits, like, they try to help each other out where they can. So they're like, yo, we just did this fundraiser, all we did was post this link to our social media and we got a check. Like, it was pretty crazy, you should definitely talk to these guys. So just to keep it back on the merch page, because that's what we're talking about tonight, it definitely leads into more merch deals as you go on.
So back to the lightning in the bottle is how to tap into Amazon's organic traffic. So what we're doing is we're identifying the audience of the nonprofit. And from there, then we're trying to find what niche they kind of associate with. And we want to be able to do that so then we can find keywords to then build the listing around. So the power of partnering with nonprofits. You're tapping into their audience, so there's no marketing. They buy the shirt. When the shirt sells, it gets a BSR or a rank. And from there, then Amazon starts to promote it to their customers. So you're really kind of taking a shirt, pushing it out into their Amazon stream, and then letting Amazon take over. So why we say you can tell the nonprofits you're on Amazon's platform and you get to tap into Amazon's customers base is because they only have so much people that will buy the shirt. But you can show them that they can sell to way more than just their audience by being able to put the shirt on Amazon and push it in such a way that it will get into Amazon's natural stream, and then Amazon customers will buy it, selling way more shirts. And if you are doing a little fundraiser or something right now, these shirts will sell a lot longer than just your event. So you can tap into that money consistently. It's almost like they're growing something.
Yeah, again, to harp on this, it was kind of like really mind-blowing for when me and Steven like realized, like, oh, we can do this a little bit differently and have a lot more success. So sometimes the nonprofits are just kind of like, I don't want to say hell-bent, but they're hell-bent on like having their branding on the shirt. They want it to say, you know, Pete's Dog Rescue or whatever it is on the shirt. But if you explain this concept to them, like, okay, we can use this fundraiser to basically launch a product for you. What we're going to do is try to make it a little bit more generic. Okay, you have a dog rescue, so we're going to make, you know, a funny dog shirt that people are going to want to buy to support you, but it's also going to fit into, you know, Amazon's organic traffic, or Amazon's customer base is going to like that shirt as well. So while Amazon's customers might not like, you know, Pete's Dog Rescue, they're going to like, you know, a dog funny face or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're just using the nonprofits audience to make those initial sales, to get the BSR real low, so that Amazon starts putting it all over the place. And if it's something generic enough that other people want to buy it, it's just going to continue to sell. And so you guys are going to continue to have that relationship. So,
and if that nonprofit is, like Nathaniel said, hell-bent on that, you can do that shirt for them, and you can do both of those. So that's why we say you can do multiple designs for them. So if they really want one that has their name on it with their website and everything that they want, you can say, hey, I'm perfectly option to do that. Here's another option though. If we do this shirt and do this shirt, and we can promote them the same way, we can put them on the same listing. Not really the same listing, but you can put them on the same landing page. this is the power of doing it this way. We'll definitely do the shirt the way that you want it, but then we just have this as an option if you want to do it, because these are the other successes that we've had with this.
Yeah, and like Jenny said, like I don't do private labeling, but I know that you guys don't go out there like, hey, we're selling your product on Amazon. But that's kind of the opposite for nonprofits. Saying that word Amazon, like, oh, we can get this to Amazon's customers. Again, it's like, it raises their eyebrows. They're like, oh, like this could have some legs, like this continue to sell, instead of all the shirts that we've done before where, like Steven said, we sell a certain amount and then we just have to stockpile them in the back and then donate them later. So again, just lightning in a bottle, like Steven said, this has been a fantastic realization of just doing something slightly different to make shirts continue to sell.
Just in dealing with any business or nonprofit, you kind of always have to be flexible to get the deal done. So find creative solutions. Each nonprofit has their own set of rules, kind of like Nathaniel touched on, their own like in-house bylaws. Sometimes they have to have their products have this material, these people doing whatever. Creatively coming up with solutions to that, in especially the verbiage, talking to them, is really how you get these deals done. Give yourself wiggle room. The way you explain things can really make or break the deal. And you don't ever want to say like, the only way we can do this is if we, or you can't do this unless we, because you can kind of manipulate a lot of the systems. So you don't ever want to be so stubborn that you can't maneuver and continue making the deal work. And then have a deadline. This will help the deal from stalling out. This has been a huge time saver for us because we were leaving a lot of things open-ended because we don't ever want to feel like we're pressuring anybody, but we have noticed that unless we have a deadline on something, it just will not get done because they get busy, they get doing other things, and then we get pushed off. And having that deadline has definitely helped us be able to close and actually get the deals to the final listing and selling step. So like Nathaniel said, I think I'm way more impatient than Nathaniel. So I'm always trying to set the deadline. Like if I meet you Monday, I want the deadline to be Friday. Like the same week. I want that stuff done the same week. I don't know if that's like the best thing to be telling people, but you want a close deadline. So don't make it like a month, make it a week or two. It should give them plenty of time to do whatever they need to do to give you, if they're giving you the art or whatever information else that they need to give you to get it done. Or get the money to you or whatever the case may be. But a tighter deadline we've noticed is really helped us finalize and get the deals completed.
So to wrap up section 3, since Steven just talked so much, knowing each piece of the deal and how to use it to create successful partnerships, that's really key. Like we said, each piece of that deal doesn't have to be used. You don't have to tell them every part that you're doing. But if you see any hiccups, just knowing that toolbox of things that you can reach into, like, oh, well, I want to do it this way because of this. Again, just being flexible inside of that, knowing all the pieces has helped us a lot just to close a lot of deals. And then Amazon's organic traffic will keep the sales coming if you optimize your listing. Again, just knowing the right keywords, making it a little bit more generic, those things will keep that shirt selling and selling, depending on how the initial push goes, like getting a really low BSR will put that shirt in a lot of different places. So again, just lightning in a bottle.
Step 4 is the listing. This is, this is virtually all of Nathaniel's mistakes that we've made when doing listings. And because Amazon does have his terms of service and you have to follow Amazon's rules so tightly, this has been a huge eye-opening experience, just trying to work with nonprofits. Like, what can we say? What can we not say? And then just all the different things that we have to deal with in making the listings.
Yeah, so I don't know how to explain this, but it looks very simple, just written out, like, oh, just 3 things I got to worry about. But it's literally just been like, I don't know how long I've been trying to work with
rejected.
Months of back and forth trying to figure out what's going on. Like, if you guys have sold on merch, they don't tell you like, oh, you can't use this logo or whatever. Like, you've got to kind of figure it out yourself. So I have been able to simplify this into 3 different things, but there is a lot of knowledge and just time and effort that's gone into these. So just to bring that up again. All right, so I'm going to break down the 3 things on the left-hand side that you see there. So profits go to, this is a no-no. Amazon doesn't like you saying profits go to anything just because they're trying to protect themselves, which is completely understandable. They don't want people making breast cancer awareness shirts and saying this is going to go to Walk of Life. And they have no way of proving that. Once they send you your money, it's yours to do with whatever you want. So if people could lie and say, we're donating all this money to this cause, then more people would be inclined to buy it, but then they would have no way to prove that that money went there. So again, just Amazon protecting themselves, it makes sense. The flip side of this is that you can put it on the t-shirt or on the design. So we've made shirts that say, you know, I donated to, or I support, whatever. So you can say those things on the actual t-shirt design themselves, but you can't put it in your listing anywhere. So important to know that. Logo permission. If the nonprofit has an internet presence, you should email merch beforehand, letting them know that you have permission to use their logo. Some nonprofits have a business license. Some nonprofits, you'll have to have email merch, or you'll have to sign something and send it to them. The merch team is pretty flexible. At least I've noticed they are. Maybe they know that I'm just that crazy guy trying to work with a bunch of nonprofits now. But if you talk to them, they'll kind of tell you what you need to do that. And not every nonprofit is it important to do this for, but if they have an internet presence, if you can quickly like look up their website online or do a Google search and they're like the first thing that pops up, I have a theory that's what the people at merch are doing. So if that happens, I've definitely like worked with the nonprofit. I was like, they don't really have an internet presence. They do have a unique name. So when you type it into Google, it is the first thing that pops up. So like I said, I think that's my hunch to knowing how they're finding these people, but they just let me know like, hey, you can't use, like they'll send you an email as a rejection. You just can email them back with the permission to use their logo. And then the last thing is the website. Similar to Profits Go To, you can't put it anywhere in the listing. Amazon is selfish. They don't want their traffic going anywhere else. Again, understandable. That's how they got to be so big. But you can put the website on the t-shirt, either the front or the back, you know, say join our family and then put their website. However you want to do it is completely fine, but you can't put it in the listing as like a hyperlink or even put .com or anything like that. It's just not worth it, and they're not going to allow it anyways.
Yeah, Amazon customers are Amazon customers. That's how they view it. They don't want you directing their customers off of Amazon.
So if you guys have never listed anything on merch before, we've got you covered. We made this step-by-step Trello board that explains our process and how we do, I want to say everything, but it's not everything, but it's just like the basics.
Yeah, the beginner. Started.
How to do research, how to get artwork done or do it yourself, and then how to upload. So step 3 is a complete listing guide. We go over every page. There's only 3, so it's not that complicated to start with. But we do go over every page. We tell you guys, like, this is something you can think about for pricing. This is what you want to think about when you're choosing colors. We try to do a really good job of just explaining each part of this. So if you're only interested in using this for nonprofits, just look at step 3 and it kind of walks you through everything that you'll need to know.
Yeah, this is expensive, so you're gonna have to go deep in your pockets for this.
The old free 99. So the listing, this was step 4. Again, just all of my mistakes in one place. So don't make Nate's listing mistakes. Again, just months of me trying to figure things out, simplified for you guys and put in some nice to look at slides. Check the pre-flight Trello board for step-by-step listing instructions. That's just what we call it, where everything I try to do is like pilot themed or Air Force themed. So we call this pre-flight. It just helps everyone kind of wrap their head around what merch is and walks you guys through the steps of actually, you know, making those listings.
So we want you to feel inspired to take action. We hope we didn't overwhelm you. We hope we gave you everything you need to get revved up to actually go out there and start finding nonprofits and getting a deal done. We hope that this is done in such a way that you can go back and rewatch part of the video. If you go, oh, I'm trying to work this deal and I don't remember exactly what I need to do here, let me listen to the communication part. That's kind of how we set up the slide so that you could go back and just quickly get that information. But in recap, step 1 is you want to locate them. Kind of, if it's easy to find the nonprofit and start talking to them, it's very difficult to build a relationship. If it's hard to find the nonprofit and get in front of them, normally the relationship building is very easy. So just like the local meetings or talking to churches or local people, those seem to take time to actually like get in front of somebody at the nonprofit to actually speak to somebody. But the relationships from there normally are much easier to build. If you're doing a lot of stuff through online, it takes a long time to build up that relationship.
It's not always like that. That's not always the case. We've run into a few people who just like we sent an email to. They trusted us right off the bat. They're like, yeah, for sure. Here's our artwork. Here's the permission to use it. Send us whatever you got. It's a little weird because even I still think that we're coming off a bit scammy. So I don't know if those people are gullible and it just so happens to work out or whatever. But you'll also meet the other side of that, where kind of regardless of what you're trying to do, it just doesn't work out. So again, there are a lot of nonprofits out there. There's a lot of people that can find value in this. So don't get discouraged by going to a nonprofit and you just so happen to go. The first one that you go to is like they're hard to build a relationship with, and they're not going to want to understand anything about Amazon. Just kind of move on to the next animal shelter down the road.
This is true. And then step 2 is communicate. Again, this is most of our time was wasted here, realizing that they're not really businesses and they have their own in-house verbiage. And when you say things that you think that would get them excited, it's very off-putting to them to where they don't want to deal with you at all. Like when I thought it was so clever to say, oh, we're an apparel business, we're going to crush with this. And they were like, nobody wanted to hear that at all. And I was like, okay, that's definitely not going to work. What's next? And then step 3 is the deal. Hopefully I was able to just explain the deal structuring of it and using each one of those as a piece, and then kind of the benefits of each one of those pieces and how you should best use them. And then going beyond just selling to their audience, the lightning in a bottle, like we keep going back to, is that you get to tap into Amazon's organic traffic or just Amazon customers. And then step 4, again, to harp on all of Nathaniel's mistakes of the listing. That was what all the listing was just mistakes pretty much, and how we took a long time to learn. Because like Nathaniel said, they don't tell you why. So it's like you almost have to like decode what's going on of why this thing got rejected. Because is it the art? Is it something we said in the listing? Is it one keyword? Is it, did we not check something at the PO? I always forget that site that we had to go and check all that stuff through.
Trademarks.
TESS.
Yeah.
The trademarks or electronic services, something.
It's very cryptic trying to deal with Amazon sometimes.
That's an understatement.
Wow, that was some great information. I hope you took lots of notes. The recording of the session will be up until midnight, but if you want to see the recordings after that, you can get our All Access Pass, which includes the recordings from all of the sessions by clicking the link below. Don't forget to share this link with anybody that's interested in starting their own print-on-demand business.